This is the instructional video for the second type exercise in the beginning typography class. In this video, I'll go over some of the basics of working in Illustrator, and I'll also walk you through how to approach and work on this assignment. So I went ahead and opened the Illustrator template that was provided through the class, and you'll see here that there are 3 boxes, one for the letter, one for the number, and one for the symbol. So the first thing I want to go ahead and do is save the file. So I'm going to come up here to File, Save As. I'm going to name it my first initial, last name, underscore type exercise 2. Go ahead and save that wherever you like. Click OK. So now I have the file saved, so now I can continue to save the file by coming up here to File, Save. Anytime I make changes, we want to make sure that we do this throughout all the projects so we don't lose our work. So Illustrator looks very much like the other Adobe programs. You'll see over here the toolbar. So this is where a lot of our tools live, the arrow tools, the type tool, rectangle tools. So these will be things that we'll be using. Over here are other windows and information. I'll go over some of those as well. One of the things I'll say first is I'm working in the Essentials Classic mode. So if you come up here to Window, Workspace, you can go ahead and get on this same workspace so you can see what I see. You can also reset it. That way it's exactly how it was in the default settings. Then there's this area up here, which is a kind of a variable toolbar. So as I click on things, you'll notice that things up here will change. So when I select type, you'll notice that the font menu comes up and the size and alignment and things like that. So a lot of times the tools you're looking for will be up here based on what you're selecting. So the first step for this is really to select the letter, number, and symbol, and that will come from the typeface that you want to work with. So you can work with any of the typefaces that have been covered in the lectures up to this point. So I'm going to go ahead and select the type tool, and I'm going to draw a type box. And I'm going to go ahead and start to decide what letter, number, and symbol I want to work with. For the letter, you can use upper and lower case. So I'm going to go ahead and work with an S, a lowercase s. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger for myself. Come up here. And then I'm going to go ahead and select a font that we've already covered. Pull down the font menu. And I'll look for Futura. So I'm going to go ahead and work with Futura. Go with the medium weight. And I'm going to start by actually outlining the type. So if I come up here to type, I can go to create outlines. And that will allow me to start to manipulate the type a little bit more easily as a shape. So I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. So part of this assignment is looking at how you can crop or create interest in the details of these letter forms. We really want you to focus on some of the beautiful qualities that are hidden in these. So I'm going to go ahead and blow this one up. I want to kind of get it to crop in an interesting way. So a couple things that you may run into that you need. One of them is if you come up here to Object and Transform, you can do things like reflect. That might be something that you want to do, where you reverse a letter form. Another thing you may want to know about is if you hold Option, you can actually click and drag and create a duplicate of something. So that can be very useful. You can always copy and paste as well, but the Option key can be very handy. Another tool you might want to play with is rotating letter forms. So you can always click on them, and if you come to the corner, you'll see the little handles change. And if I click and hold, I'm able to then rotate the letter form. If I hold Shift, it'll also restrict me to only be able to rotate it to certain angles, which can be useful. Also, when you're scaling here, if you hold down Shift, it will always keep the letter form intact. Remember that we don't want stretched letter forms. I don't really want to see things like this or this. So be sure that you're always holding down the Shift key as you're making things larger and smaller. We can't change the color for this, so we want to avoid any kind of color modification. We also don't want to put strokes on the type, so avoid that as well. So I'm counting on you to spend some time on this and do some sketching and maybe come up with some ideas before you actually get in here, but I'm just going to go ahead and continue through this process. So I'm going to make this S fit in here. Again, let's see. Oops. Okay. So now that I have this S where I want it, I now want to crop it into this box. So that's going to happen through a masking feature. So I'm going to go ahead and mask it inside this box. But one thing I've realized I've done wrong here is if you look, the box has a blue line, but the S has a red line. So if I come over here to the layers palette, there's actually two layers in this file. One is the name layer where we need to put our name, and the other one are actually the boxes. So I need to go ahead and copy this off of the name layer and paste it onto the actual layer 1. So I'm going to delete it since I've already copied it. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste it on layer 1. So you'll see I have layer 1 now selected. I'll go ahead and paste in front. That way it's right where I want it. So now these are on the same layer. We can tell they're both blue. So hopefully when you start, maybe you won't have the name layer selected, but if that happens, that's the best way to get around that issue. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my name into this. I should have done this from the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and put my name on the file. And then I'm going to go ahead and click this lock. That'll lock the name layer, which will allow me to just work on layer 1 now. So we'll get back to what we were doing. I now want to mask the S inside of this square. So the first step of this is we're actually going to need 2 of these boxes. So I'm going to click Edit, Copy, and then I'm going to do Paste in Front. Then I'm going to select the box again, and I'm actually, just for good measure, going to go up here to Object, Arrange, and do Bring to Front. Because we want the box on top of whatever we're masking inside of it. So for this one, I'm only masking one thing. So now I'm going to select the S, hold down Shift, and select the box. Then I'm going to come up here to Object, and I'm going to go to Clipping Mask. So this will allow the S to fit inside that box. Now you'll notice here that I still have the dark frame. If you don't duplicate the frame, you'll get something that looks more like this. So we need 2 of these shapes, and that's why we need both. One of them will continue to keep that frame there, and the other one's actually bounding this S. Another interesting thing you can do is you can actually continue to click on this S. So I'm going to click on it a few times here, and you'll see that you can actually select it again. And this actually gives me the ability to move the S within the mask. So this is another interesting technique that you can explore in terms of how you're going to crop or incorporate the letter form inside of the actual compositional space. So you can always undo. That's a great thing to always know about. So undo and redo if you ever do something you didn't intend to. So now let's go to the number. I'm going to go ahead and use the same font because we have to use the same one on all of these. And I'm going to work with a 3. So I'm on Futura Medium. I'm going to go ahead and select Type, Create Outlines, and I'll start working with this 3. On this one, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to make more of a pattern. So I'm going to first hold down Option and click and drag to create another 3. And then I'm going to come up here to Object Transform, and I'm going to reflect the 3. So that's what I want. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to bring these things a little bit closer together so I get that diamond shape in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this. So if I press Command plus, it will allow me to zoom in. And then the space bar will give me a hand that will allow me to move around. So now I have these pretty much where I want them. I'm going to move them a little bit closer together using the arrow tool. The arrow keys on the keyboard. All right, and now I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Option key with both of them selected and go ahead and duplicate this again. All right, once I have that where I want it, and now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. So this is an interesting function that Illustrator has. I want to continue to repeat this exact same action again. So I'm going to press Command D. That's going to allow me to duplicate these. So I'm going to end up with a handful of these 3s. Now I'm going to select all of them again, hold down Option and Shift so I can drag them directly down, and I'm going to go ahead and line these up. So now I have it where I want it. I'm going to go ahead and select Command D again, and that's going to duplicate this a couple more times. So now that I have enough of these that they'll fill the box, I'm going to go ahead and select all of them. So I'm clicking and dragging to select them, and then I'm going to go ahead and press Shift to unselect the box. So now I have this pattern I built out of these 3s. And I'm going to go ahead and group it together. So that's Command G. It's also up in the Object menu. So I've got these all grouped. Now they're one object that I can move around. And I'm going to go ahead and get it down into this box. I'm going to hold down Shift and maybe make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to kind of explore a little bit of scale here. Maybe it's more interesting if it's bigger. I think I'm more interested in it when it's larger. So now that I have it where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and mask it again. So this is grouped. All of these objects are grouped together. So this is how you would mask something with multiple objects. So I'm going to go ahead again and repeat the frame. So I'm going to go in here and select this frame. I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, Paste in Front. And for good measure, I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. So now I have the grouped threes that I want to crop, and I'm going to Shift select the box. Now I'll go to Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And now those threes are going to lock inside. And again, now I can click inside and maybe explore moving these around a little bit so I get them just exactly where I want them. But that's the basics if you wanted to crop multiple letters, numbers, or symbols inside one of these compositions. It doesn't have to be a pattern per se. Maybe you just have 2 or 3 that you want to combine. But again, that's the process. Everything needs to be grouped together before you go through the clipping mask process. So I'm just going to show a little bit of the symbol. Mostly what I want to show is maybe the symbols that you could use. So if you go into a typeface, obviously you can see the ones on your keyboard. So you could explore things like the exclamation point or the @ symbol, the number symbol, the $sign, things like that. But also if you come up here to type and you go to Glyphs, you can actually see all of the different symbols that exist within a typeface. So any of things are fair game. You could go with the ampersand, you could do the asterisk, the yen symbol, the pound. You could explore some of the other symbols like the registration symbol or the trademark symbol. There's also things like the apple. So you're welcome to work with any of these things. You could even explore some of the accents if you wanted to. So I just maybe wanted to show that these things exist. So the way to go about this would be to create a text box again, but instead of typing anything, I'm going to just click on what I want. So maybe I want to work with the division symbol. So I can go ahead and put that in here. And then it's the same process. I can come up here to type, and I can do create outlines, which will allow me to, whoops, I need to get off the type tool. So I'm going to click on the solid arrow, select this again, go to type, create outlines, and there I have it. So I won't go through the process on this. I think we've understood the masking and how this works, but the Glyphs palette can be an interesting place to explore as you're looking to find symbols for this assignment. So then once you're done, once you have all of this complete, so you have all 3 of them masked perfectly with the frame, you have your name on the name layer, we want to go ahead and export this as a PDF so that we can put it up on the discussion. And in Illustrator, we do that by going to File, Save As. And when we do that, it's going to create a new file. So I often recommend saving the Illustrator file before you do this, but you can always open up a PDF usually again in Illustrator. So I'm going to come down here to Adobe PDF. I'm going to make sure I have the correct name. I'm going to click Save. And then I'm going to come up here to smallest file size. So this is important. Again, it's important that you save before you do this, because when we do this, it's turning off the Illustrator editing capabilities. It doesn't mean we can't potentially go back, but it's important that you save an Illustrator file and then also a PDF. So once I have this all selected how I want, so I basically just selected smallest file size, I'm going to click Save PDF, and that's going to create a file on my computer that then I can post up to the discussion. So I hope that helps, and if you have any questions at all, please be sure to write your instructor. Good luck on the assignment.